What's up YouTube? KS Gun Guy here. Thanks for joining me today. If you like what you see here, do be sure to like, subscribe, and share. There's plenty more content on the way. So it occurred to me it's been a little while since I've talked about Glocks, or at least talked about Glocks without comparing them to other guns, and oftentimes saying how Glock is a little bit behind the times, and there are other manufacturers that have really come a long way and perhaps in some ways surpassed the Glock. Well, I don't want to forget about the Glock in general, and I don't want you viewers to think that I don't like Glocks anymore, because that's absolutely not true. I still love Glocks, and if you had asked me a year ago what kind of gun I wanted to have, and if I could only have one type of gun, what would it be? I would have said a Glock. Now, things have changed a lot, and I've started to focus on more guns like CZs and Walthers and Sig Sauers, things like that, but I don't want to forget, I guess, where I came from a little bit, and that's kind of the world of Glocks. So, you've seen this gun before if you've seen my Glock 19 MOS video, but I thought it'd be a good time to share some updates with this, as well as talk about a new trigger system from Overwatch Precision. So, first things first, of course, this is unloaded. I do have an unloaded magazine in there as usual. So a couple of things have changed with this since I last saw you guys with the Glock MOS. First and foremost, the sights. Now, these sights, the first sights that I put on the gun were Dawson Precision sights, and they were the very highest sights that I could possibly find, and they were fiber optic sights. And they co-witnessed very well with this Burris Fastfire red dot on here. However, they really cut into the field of view of the glass. And so I went back and I switched out those Dawson Precisions for these Dawson Precision sights that are .395 millimeters tall, or 0.395 inches, I guess, tall. And they still co-witness very well with the red dot optic. However, they don't cut into the glass quite so much. Now, they don't have the fiber optic rods, but at the end of the day, I really want to focus more on the red dot rather than the sights. I just want that option to co-witness. So I did make that change and lowered them a little bit. I still think they're a little bit ridiculous looking from an aesthetic standpoint. However, from a purpose standpoint, they definitely do their job. Now, I still have the Burris Fastfire 3 on this. However, it is not the original one. The original one actually got damaged, and I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. I'll try and twist this in the light a little bit, and actually let me get a pointer here. So there's a little piece of glass that the red dot actually shines through, and it's red glass before it hits the actual the glass reticle here in front. And when it was either damaged at the range, or it was damaged when something was being adjusted with those two screws back there. And so I got the opportunity to test the Burris warranty, and I got to tell you, they responded very quickly, and it was a kind of a no questions asked sort of situation. So I sent this back, and they immediately sent out a brand new one the day that they received it, which was really nice. So it was maybe about a week, maybe a little bit over a week turnaround time from me to them and them back to me. Really not a bad deal. And again, they paid for all the shipping and all that kind of stuff. So it was really, really nice. The only bummer was the second one that they gave me didn't work. It turned on and it would turn right back off. And I tested different batteries. I got on the phone with them a couple of times to troubleshoot. And unfortunately, we just couldn't get it to work. And once again, Burris very quickly said, "Hey, ship that back, and we'll send you a new one." And this time they did it a little bit differently. They actually sent theirs before I sent mine back. So the two kind of crossed over each other in flight. So they were very nice to do that and get it back to me pretty quickly. I told them I was getting ready to do a review on actually comparing the Burris to the Vortex Venom, which you may have seen. Now, I've paid for this, so they didn't give me a free one or anything like that. However, they were willing to work with me and kind of go a little bit above and beyond the call of duty, and I suppose they would probably do that for anyone in certain situations. But again, it was really nice that they supported their warranty claims. Now, this is number 3 on the Burris Fastfire. And this one works. It works really well. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that. Hopefully you can pick that up okay. But I've taken this to the range. I've put a couple hundred rounds through it. I'll be wheeling in that footage as we go along. And it seems to be doing just fine. It did loosen up a tiny bit after about 150, 170 rounds or so. But I have not put any Loctite on this. In fact, I'm not putting any Loctite on any of my aftermarket red dots right now, simply because I may want to switch them out and test different things. So it's kind of a give and take a little bit. I run that risk, but I try and torque these down to I think about 10 foot-pounds or whatever it's called. That's about the recommended amount for these screws. So it seems to work pretty well. Now, the one other thing that I've changed on this, and if you've seen my original Glock 19 MOS video, I actually had this Overwatch Precision Tac or TAC trigger in here, and this is a flat face trigger with just a little bit, and hopefully you can see that okay, just a little bit of a protrusion at the very bottom of it to kind of catch your finger. So it's not really flat, but it's really close. And I like this trigger a lot, man. The flat trigger I've really become quite a believer in, at least in terms of the Glock format. I'm a little bit more skeptical on the P320 Apex flat trigger, and you may have seen some of those videos. I'm kind of hit or miss on that, but this works really well. Now, Overwatch Precision just put out a brand new trigger in this same line, and it's actually called the Falx trigger, or Falx trigger right there. And I contacted Overwatch and said, you know, hey, I've done a review on this this Tac Trigger. Once again, I paid for this, and I'd love to test out your Falx trigger and compare the two. And they were really nice to work with me. However, I had to pay for this too. I got a bit of a discount, which was really nice of them to do. But at the end of the day, I did pay for it. So so unfortunately, not free. But I like this trigger a lot, and what's a little bit more unique about this trigger is the fact that it's actually, it's I guess would you say scalloped a little bit, so it's curved, and so it's not a flat face trigger, and it's really nice. It's smooth all the way inside, and hopefully you can see that okay. Hopefully the light's catching it. The light in here is always a little bit funky, but it's smooth and it's curved, so so it fits your finger very, very nicely. Now, if you followed any of my views at all, or reviews rather, you'll know that I shoot with the first knuckle of my finger. Yeah, I know it's probably not the best habit, but because of the size of my hands, I just kind of have to. This is not very comfortable to me. However, no matter how you shoot, this is a really comfortable trigger to use, and it's very smooth as well. I also like that it does come with a blue safety lever or dingus in there, which is really nice. I'm trying to kind of move this around so it can catch certain lights for you. But again, it's very nice. It's very smooth. And let's go ahead and give this a couple of tests. We'll even test it on the Lyman gauge and see how it does. The Tac Trigger consistently came in just under 4 pounds, so it was always around 3 pounds 12, 3 pounds 13 ounces or so, and remarkably consistent. So I'm hoping that this does almost as well. Now, it's not flat face, so it's got just a tiny bit more travel, but not a lot. But let's go ahead and give this a try. So it is pretty darn close to the wall right there. I mean, it's got about 1 millimeter of travel, and once it does, there's your break. Now there's the thing, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to do it again, but here's your reset. Okay, there's your reset. Nice tactile and audible reset. I'm going to start from the beginning here, because you're going to see I'm really basically at a stopping point right here. Again, about 1 millimeter of travel, and then it stops, and you feel like, okay, there's the wall, ready to go. And that's where the wall was with the Tac Trigger. However, man, you've got a lot of distance, and there's a pretty hard push in there for the Falx trigger. Now, it's not a bad feeling. However, there's a lot of travel there, and that's the reset, and then right back at the break. Again, it's smooth and it's light, but there's definitely some travel in there. So it's not quite as responsive, in my opinion, as the Tac Trigger, but it's pretty good. It's again smooth and light and crisp. So let's go ahead and give this a try and see how this measures out here. Just a couple of these. Okay, 4 pounds, 3.2 ounces. I will tell you, I tested this off camera as well, and I got right around the same thing. I got the low 4s, high 3s for this. So we'll give this a try a couple more times and see how this does. Okay, 4 pounds, 0.3 ounces. So that's again, pretty close, pretty consistent. And a lot of it depends on where you pull the trigger with the Lyman gauge, or any trigger gauge for that matter. And 4 pounds, 1.3 ounces. So pretty consistent. In my opinion, again, it's not as light and not as pronounced as the Tac Trigger. So there's a little bit more travel past this kind of perceived wall you get. However, again, it's light, it's smooth, it's crisp. I have no complaints, and when shooting it, it really is a fun trigger to shoot. I'm finally starting to get a little bit more used to red dot shooting. I still shoot them low. It still takes me a while to kind of get into that mindset. However, it's getting better, and having a good trigger like the Falx trigger or the Tac Trigger can really make a big difference, especially in a Glock. Those of you who are Glock guys know that the stock triggers are they're not that great. Now, what you can expect in the box with something like this is really pretty much this. Now, this is an OEM trigger. However, it's a great example or model of what you can expect. You just get the trigger bar and the trigger shoe. Now, one of the really nice things about the Overwatch precision triggers, they use OEM parts, so you're not going to disable any safeties or anything like that. Now, they are all Gen 3, so they'll work in your Gen 4s, but they don't have the little nub that sits right here that pushes this away from the wall of the slide. That's okay. Again, I think they function just fine. This is a Gen 4, and I've probably put 500 rounds through with this trigger, and another 200 rounds with this trigger, and again, no issues whatsoever. And I've done Gen 3 triggers and Gen 4s before, and again, not a worry, not an issue. And if I have a Gen 4 trigger in a Gen 4, I tend to file off that little nub, or at least a portion of it. Not saying you should do that, but that's what I've done. And so that seems to work really well. It smooths it out a little bit. Another nice thing about these Overwatch precision triggers, not only the Falx but also the Tac, and I'm just using this as an example because it's out, it has an MP3 coating. N as in Nancy, MP3 coating. And so what that does is that makes it inherently slick and also really easy to clean. When I first got the Tac Trigger, I looked at this and I thought, oh my gosh, it's so dirty. I'm going to have to polish it and all that. Well, no, don't do that. It doesn't need to be polished. It's got this coating, so it's already really slick and ready to go. So you just plop it in rather, and you're good to go. And it just attaches to the rest of your trigger mechanism and the connector and all of that. So you should be good to go. Of course, you know, a lot of people switch out things like connectors, even the springs back there. I mean, you know, there's all sorts of stuff you can do, but at the end of the day, you can attach it to just the rest of your trigger assembly and you're good to go. It's a drop-in and ready. And again, OEM parts, so it's made for it. There shouldn't be any sort of fiddling or futzing with it whatsoever. So just want to share this with you guys. There's nothing better than a really good trigger system in your firearm, regardless of whether it's a Glock or another gun, something like that. But with the Glocks, the Overwatch precision triggers really are fantastic triggers, whether it's the Tac or the Falx. They even have a DAC or DAC, which is a truly flat face trigger. So if you get an opportunity, play around with something like that, see if you like it. All right, so thanks for joining me today, and I'm looking forward to reading your comments, not only about the trigger system, the Overwatch precision trigger, or my experiences with that, but also the Glock 19 MOS in general, just Glocks in general. It's fun to go back and revisit the world of Glock. So I look forward to hearing from all you guys, and otherwise, once again, thanks so much for joining me. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time. Thanks.